Virgo, in the coming days, someone will try to take your place, but God will prevent it. In the coming days, someone will try to sit in a chair that wasn't made for them. And the worst part isn't even the attempt. It's the silence that comes before. That overly polite smile, that question that seemed innocent but dug too deep to be just curiosity. You've felt this before, haven't you? A low alarm going off in some room of the house that you haven't quite been able to locate yet. And the Virgo instinct, trained all its life to perceive patterns, is already shouting a warning that the mind hasn't finished translating into words yet. But there's one thing that those trying to take your place don't know, and that's precisely what changes everything in this story. They have no idea how many invisible layers this place was built with. They didn't see the nights, the details, the thousand small right decisions made when nobody was watching. And there's something bigger moving behind the scenes of this chessboard, something that neither of the two players, sitting face to face, can see from within. A justice older than any human dispute, which has long since chosen which side of the walls you'll be on. In the next few minutes, you'll understand why this attempt won't work and what it reveals about the force that has always been working in your favor, even when you thought you were watching alone. There's a place you've earned without anyone seeing the effort behind it. It wasn't luck, it wasn't chance, it was silent repetition. Arriving early, revising twice, sustaining what others let fall by the wayside. And that's precisely why a strange feeling has been creeping into you these past few days. A restlessness that doesn't yet have a name, but that feels like a faint alarm ringing in some room of the house you haven't yet located. An out-of-place comment, an overly polite smile, a question that seemed innocent but dug too deep to be mere curiosity. Virgos have this radar. It's not paranoia, it's the trained perception of someone who has spent their entire life observing patterns in order to survive them. But here's the question you still haven't been able to answer on your own. What to do with this warning? Fighting for a place is different from holding on to a place. Fighting means engaging in combat, expending energy, proving the obvious to those who should already know. Holding on to a place means something else. It means trusting that what was built with real work has roots too deep to be uprooted by a stroke of luck from someone who arrived last, wanting what is theirs. There's a difference between being vigilant and being panicked, and it's more subtle than it seems. Vigilance observes and waits for the right moment to act. Panic acts prematurely, makes mistakes, and impulsively gives away pieces of your own game. And you know deep down that the most dangerous opponent in this whole story might not even be the person trying to replace you. It could be the version of yourself that panics and starts playing poorly precisely when you most need to keep a cool head. Because there's something no one has told those on the other side trying to take your place. They don't know how many layers of invisible work went into building that place. They didn't see the nights you solved problems no one asked you to solve. They don't know that the foundation that sustains your place isn't just made of visible competence. It's made of 1,000 small right decisions made when no one was watching. And a foundation like that doesn't crumble just because someone pushed against the wall once. But there's a second layer to this story that changes everything, and that's what I need to tell you about now. Because it's not just about you holding your place with your own strength, alone, in the dark, calculating every move to exhaustion. There's something bigger moving behind the scenes of this chessboard, something that sees the whole picture from an angle that neither of the two players, sitting face to face, could ever see from within. And most people only realize that this bigger movement existed when it's already too late. When it was already too late to pretend you didn't feel it, too late to say you were just exaggerating. This larger movement I mentioned doesn't arrive with noise. It moves silently, rearranging pieces you didn't even know were in play. And the question that remains is, how can you trust a force you can't see acting? It was while searching for answers to this that I found this digital book, The 12 laws of the universe that help the zodiac sign overcome spiritual envy talks precisely about this, about what moves behind the scenes when someone driven by envy, disguised as ambition, tries to occupy a space they didn't build. It's not a self-defense manual. It's a lens to see the whole board, including the pieces that move outside your field of vision. For Virgo, who already lives analyzing the visible, the next natural step is to also look at what is not visible to the naked eye. You're probably still listening to that quiet alarm bells, deciding whether to react now or wait a little longer to be sure. But absolute certainty rarely arrives before action. It usually comes afterward, when it's too late to act at the right time. The link is in the first pinned comment, but be aware, this content may be taken down. Click now and download your copy. Meanwhile, leave a comment below. What was the first sign, however small, that made you realize someone was eyeing your position? It's too late to react with a cool head, and this is where a truth that Virgo struggles to accept comes in. Protecting a territory isn't about reacting quickly. It's about taking care of it every day before any threat appears. There's a forest ranger inside every virgin, someone who doesn't wait for a fire to learn the map of the forest, who walks the trails on ordinary days without any urgency, just observing, this tree is sick, this stream has changed course, this area has become too dry this year. When the fire finally appears, the forest ranger already knows where it will spread, because they know the terrain in a way that someone who arrived yesterday will never know. You did that. In recent months, in recent years, while no one was paying attention, you mapped every trail in your own territory. And it is this map, not the haste, that will save you now. But the uncomfortable question remains, what happens when the fire doesn't originate from outside, but is started by someone who was already inside the forest, pretending to take care of it alongside you? There is a shepherd watching over his flock at night alone in the middle of an open field. He doesn't count the sheep just once at the end of the day. He counts them again and again, because he knows that the most dangerous predator is not the one that attacks in packs, screaming, visible from a distance. It's the one that approaches slowly in the shadows, mimicking the flock until it's close enough to attack unnoticed. Virgo knows how to count his own sheep. He knows who truly belongs to the field and who is only pretending to graze nearby, waiting for his guard to lower. And their guard is down precisely when you trust them most. That's where the real danger lies in this situation. There's a scene that repeats itself on every cattle or sheep farm. The predator doesn't attack the entire herd at once. It patiently chooses the animal that strayed a little too far from the center of the group, the one that got distracted, the one that lowered its attention for a second, thinking the rest of the flock would cover the gap. Virgo, deep down, always knew this about himself, that the moment of greatest risk isn't when he's totally vigilant, but when he finally relaxes because he deserves a rest. And it's precisely there, in that well-deserved rest, that the nagging question returns. Is it possible to truly rest without leaving a gap, or are vigilance and rest forever mutually exclusive things? There's a locksmith who has learned over the years something most people never stop to think about. A good lock isn't designed to stop everyone. It's designed to stop those who don't have the right key. He doesn't work out of fear of any specific thief. He works with precision, testing every mechanism, every pin, every tiny gear, until he's absolutely certain that only a custom-made key will turn that cylinder. Virgin builds each relationship, each position, each place it occupies, without realizing it, with layers of mechanisms that seem invisible from the outside, but which make it almost impossible for someone to enter without actually having the right to be there. The problem is that no lock can withstand forever someone who has the time, patience, and enough information to study each pin one by one. And that's exactly what this person trying to take your place is doing now. Studying, testing, looking for the pin that hasn't been properly adjusted yet. The question that lingers is simple and uncomfortable. Is there any pin in your own mechanism that you never really tested because you always trusted too much that it was good? There's a difference between a cheap, ready-made lock bought in any store and a custom-made lock, piece by piece, by someone who understands mechanisms. The first one might work, but it gives way to the first serious attempt at a break-in. The second one resists because every detail was thought out, tested and remade when it wasn't perfect the first time. You didn't build your place like someone who buys something ready-made off a shelf. You built it like a manufacturer who remakes the same pin 7 times until it fits perfectly. And it's this difference, invisible to an outsider, that separates those who only pretend to occupy a space from those who truly built it with their own hands. There's a sentry atop a watchtower in the middle of the night alone, gazing at a horizon that most people below don't even imagine needs watching. She doesn't sleep well because she knows that the attack, when it comes, usually happens when everyone else has relaxed, convinced that the night will be as peaceful as the previous 100 nights. The sentry carries a burden that no one appreciates, the burden of being awake precisely when she would like to rest, because resting too early is the kind of mistake you only pay for once. You've been that sentinel these past few days, feeling your body tired from watching over a danger that hasn't even truly materialized yet, only announced itself in small signs. And the weariness of watching without any confirmation is a specific kind of exhaustion that no one else can understand, because from the outside it seems like you're inventing a threat where there is none. But there is a difference between the sentry, tired of watching alone, and the sentry who discovers, in the middle of the night, that he was not alone in the tower the whole time. In ancient fortresses, besides the sentry who stayed awake watching the visible horizon, there was always another, less talked about, almost secret watch, the one that prayed. While one guard observed the field with his eyes, another guard observed the field with something else, something that perceived intention even before it became movement. And it was this second, silent watch that often detected danger before any visible sentry could see the dust rising on the horizon. This discovery, that there is a greater presence watching alongside you, changes the weight you carry on your shoulders right now. The vigilance ceases to be solely yours, solitary and exhausting. It becomes shared with something that sees what you cannot see from up there in your tower. The book, The 12 Laws of the Universe That Help the Zodiac Sign Overcome Spiritual Envy, deals with this presence that moves behind the scenes, protecting what has been built with real work from those who try to take it undeservedly. For Virgo, burdened with watching over everything alone, understanding this law is finally being able to rest without guilt. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey toward the clarity and genius you deserve. There's a goalkeeper standing alone in the middle of the goal while the opponent prepares to take the decisive penalty. The entire stadium is silent, waiting. And the goalkeeper knows something no one else in the stadium knows. He's studied this penalty taker beforehand, watched videos, and memorized which way he usually shoots when under pressure. The save that seems like pure instinct to the crowd is, in reality, months of silent preparation that no one saw. But there's one detail that even the most prepared goalkeeper can't control. He can study the kicker his whole life, but he can't decide alone whether the ball goes in or not. There's a goalpost, there's an angle, there's a millimeter of luck, or something greater than luck, deciding the final result at that exact moment. And it's precisely accepting this, that the preparation is yours, but the final result isn't solely yours, that separates the goalkeeper at peace from the goalkeeper who freezes with anxiety even before the ball is touched. You've been preparing your whole life for this kind of penalty. The question now is whether you trust that the goalpost, the angle, and everything else outside your control will work in your favor this time. There's a recurring scene in every decisive penalty kick. The goalkeeper who dives too early, out of anxiety, usually guesses the wrong side, but the goalkeeper who waits until the last possible moment, reading the kicker's body until the exact moment of contact with the ball, has a much better chance of guessing correctly. Waiting in this context is not weakness. It's the most advanced form of reading that exists. And perhaps that's the lesson you're missing now. It's not about diving to any side just to prove you're doing something. It's about waiting for the right signal, even with the entire stadium shouting for you to act now. Trusting that something greater is deciding the final angle of the ball, even after its preparation, is where most people get stuck. Letting go of control seems, for Virgo, like relinquishing control of their own destiny. But it's not. It's recognizing a second force playing alongside yours. The book, The 12 Laws of the Universe That Help Each Zodiac Sign, Overcome Spiritual Envy, shows exactly how to recognize, without losing control of your own preparation, the right moment to trust that the final defense doesn't depend solely on you. For those who are stuck between over-preparing and never being able to rest, this is the missing piece. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey toward the clarity and genius you deserve. An experienced fencer learns before any strike the art of the parry, the movement that deflects the opponent's attack without expending energy attacking back first. He doesn't win by proving who is stronger. He wins by reading the opponent's timing, letting the opponent's blade graze past, exposed, and only then responding with precision in the space that the opponent's own mistake left open. The whole art lies in not reacting too soon. Virgo, when threatened, has the impulse to attack first, to prove their worth before any direct confrontation actually happens. But the fencer knows that whoever attacks first, out of fear, usually loses their balance. And it is in this imbalance that the real blow occurs. The person trying to take your place is already unbalanced, exposed by their own hasty movement. And you, if you know how to wait for the right moment to stop, won't need to prove anything. Their mistake will prove it for you. There's a detail that separates the beginner fencer from the experienced one, and it's not the speed of their arm. It's their breathing. The beginner holds their breath at the moment of threat, tensing their entire body, and it's precisely this tension that makes them slow to react when an opening appears. The experienced fencer breathes deeply, even with the opponent's blade close to their chest, because they know that a tense body slows down the rhythm of their own strike. You've been carrying too much tension these past few days. Tension that hinders more than it protects. Perhaps the first weapon in this contest isn't attacking, but simply catching your breath again. Waiting for the right moment to stop, without acting impulsively, requires a kind of confidence that doesn't spring from nowhere. It comes from understanding that there is justice at work behind every dispute, even when the opponent seems a step ahead for the moment. The book, The 12 Laws of the Universe That Help Each Zodiac Sign, Overcome Spiritual Envy, teaches precisely this conscious waiting, how to recognize the imbalance of those who act out of disguised envy without needing to compete at their level. For Virgo, tired of always having to prove their worth, this is the law that restores calm before the final blow. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey toward the clarity and genius you deserve. In the end, there is a captain of the Royal Guard who has spent his entire life defending a castle he never built, but which he has learned to love as if it were his own, stone by stone, tower by tower. And there is one thing every experienced captain of the Guard knows, something learned only after many nights on watch. The castle never depended solely on him. He did the part that fell to human hands, locking the gate at the right time, completing the patrol flawlessly, sounding the alarm at the first sign of danger. But the highest walls, those that no enemy can climb even after trying their whole life, were erected by a hand that works in silence, long before the first siege begins. You have been, all this time, the captain of your own castle, watching, calculating, reinforcing each gate with the care of someone who knows the price of a mistake. And it is precisely because of this care that whoever tries to take your place will find walls higher than they imagined, not because you built them all alone, but because you were never, in fact, alone in building them. There is a justice older than any human dispute, and it has long since chosen which side of the walls you stand on. What remains now is not to fight harder. It is to continue being who you have always been, with the tranquil certainty of someone who knows that the castle, this one, will never fall at the hands of those who only know how to copy what they did not build. There's one last thing every old guard captain learned, usually too late in their career. The best defended castle in history wasn't the one with the highest walls. It was the one with the most peaceful captain. Because a captain at peace sees clearly, sleeps when he needs to sleep, trusts the team he trained, and reserves his own energy for the exact moment when it will truly make a difference. A captain in a panic, no matter how many walls he has built, spends all his strength watching over ghosts and arrives too weak at the time of the real siege. Perhaps this is the real turning point that no one has told you until now. You have already done the work of building the walls. What remains is not more work. It is allowing peace, the peace that comes from knowing you are no longer alone in this guard, to finally enter as well. The castle is safe. You can at last rest from keeping watch alone.